Welcome to the session. My name is Nick Theo. I'm Program Manager at the Alef Trust, and we have Francesco, who will be handling the communications with all of you during the session. But I'd like to introduce Jevon Dangeli and Dr. Hennie Geldenhuys, who are the course leaders for the Certificate in Transpersonal Coaching Psychology. So I guess as a first question, define what is transpersonal coaching psychology? How is it different? What are the benefits as a comparison to traditional coaching?
I'd be glad to have a go at that one. Hello, everybody. I'm Jevon. And, well, this is a common question that we get. And I think there are many distinguishing factors that separate transpersonal coaching from what might be considered conventional life or business coaching. But primarily it is that we value the transpersonal or spiritual perspective. We utilize techniques or processes to access expansive states of consciousness. And then we draw from those expanded states creativity, inspiration, and ideas that we channel into the various areas of life in which that can be useful. This is quite different already from traditional coaching. We'll utilize tools like meditation, mindfulness-based practices, and practitioners who already have a background in spiritual practices can bring those practices into the transpersonal coaching context and integrate their practices with our transpersonal coaching model very well. There's one other condition, I think, that is quite common in our coaching approach, which is that people often come, clients that would be with crises of a spiritual kind, people who are experiencing spiritual awakening or a crisis on the path to awakening, perhaps, and they're seeking ways to understand the abstract experiences that they've been having and to integrate those experiences into the various areas of life. So our coaching model is particularly useful with that regard. So we're accessing transpersonal states on purpose, and when clients come to us because they're in transpersonal states and struggling with it, then we help them to integrate those experiences so that they can be utilized meaningfully in life. I could go on, but I think I'll leave it at that for now, Nick.
Fantastic. Yeah, for you, Jevon, and for Hennie, how did you get introduced to transpersonal coaching, and how have you been using it in your respective professions?
I'll jump in here if I may, Nick. Well, for me personally, I'm a medical practitioner by background, and I find it very useful to integrate the transpersonal approach into what I do. I'm really interested in the healing professions because of my medical background, and I have been fascinated about how this transpersonal approach it is so diverse. It can be applied in so many different fields. We've had people in our classes that come from various backgrounds, yoga practitioners, healthcare practitioners, but also just normal people like the rest of us. And they've all found ways to integrate this philosophy into what they do, whether you have an existing professional practice like I might have, or you might have, or whether not, and you are completely new to coaching. We treasure the potential to apply these perspectives to whatever you do. In fact, we don't have a by numbers approach to things. We urge you to, throughout the course, develop how this works for you. What you bring, all experiences that you've had in life up until this point, is completely valid and is completely useful. And we hope to create the space through which you can integrate what we share with you into what you do presently, or more importantly, what you plan to do in the future.
That's a wonderful answer, Hennie. And yeah, I can only reiterate, it really doesn't matter what your background is. If you see potential value in these broader perspectives, to be utilized as resourceful states to deal with the challenges that show up on the path through life. And these need not be spiritual crises exclusively. As I mentioned before, they could just be stress, burnout, anxiety, fear, loss, and even trauma. Our particular coaching model extends itself very well into these various domains. My background is in martial arts and in mindfulness practices. And I was first trained in more traditional life coaching and from an NLP background. And I've always had an interest in sports performance and performance in work as well. And although that is quite a mainstream context, I started to realize, although my interest was already there, that drawing from the transpersonal has tremendous scope and value. And I've also spent a fair amount of time in spiritual centers and meditation retreats around the world. And it has always interested me how people access wonderful resourceful states in their meditation practices or in the company of spiritual friends. Yet when they leave those contexts and step back into life, they struggle very often to integrate their spiritual values and ideals into the areas of life in which they're struggling. And I started to recognize, well, there are ways of anchoring and embodying these wonderful states and perspectives so that they're meaningful and useful to us in all areas of life. And so we began to develop, going back about 20 years now, specific coaching models that assist people in embodying these expansive states and applying them in very practical ways, where the rubber hits the road, in work, in the family, in social settings, sport performance, and the types of contexts and issues that clients would typically bring to the traditional life or business coach too. So many of the people that come to this course are already practitioners, and they're interested in this transpersonal coaching specialization. But like Hennie has suggested, there are a lot of people that don't have any former background in this line of work, and they're starting off fresh. And so we actually teach from the ground up. You needn't have a former background in this kind of professional work. And you could be starting in this new career direction for which this course would be quite optimal.
And just to add further, sorry to interrupt you, Nick, I must warn you that once Jevon and I start talking about this, we never stop because we're so passionate about this. But also, to me, what attracts me to transpersonal coaching is the fact that it is practical, it has meaning. The transpersonal is very often this sort of abstract concept, isn't it? And it's important to talk about it, but it's also very important to put it into practice. And coaching is about doing that. It's about making it meaningful. It's about anchoring our concept, our appreciation of whatever the transpersonal might be to you, but anchoring it for your clients, but also for you as the coach, because you can't coach people through transpersonal means if you yourself don't go through a growth process. Thank you.
Okay. This 1-year certificate. It's labeled as an online course, and that has a vague meaning today. And Alef Trust, we do like to be a community, like to interact. So please share with the group how the course is laid out, the modules, the interactions, what they'll be doing over that year.
Well, the course is very interactive and participatory. We pride ourselves in taking the distance out of distance learning, and we've been doing online education for quite some time at Alef Trust. And this particular transpersonal coaching course has been online already before it began its inception through Alef Trust 4 years ago. And aspects of it have been in person at various locations around the world that Hennie and I have been co-presenting. But we've taken it online more and more, but really made an effort to sustain the kind of cohesiveness and group in the room energy and atmosphere that we've enjoyed at our in-person trainings. And so we've got ways and means to do that. And we think it's so important if one's going to do this type of work, to cultivate that sense of being in the shared co-creative space, the held or liminal space in which the potential for growth and transformation is enhanced. So it's heart work. We're connecting from one whole being to another whole being and among a group of beings. And you're going to learn to coach individuals and groups and to create that sense of we're in this together, we're here to learn and grow. At this one-year program, we do that through 3 different modules. The first module is exploring the theory behind transpersonal coaching, the various models and practices that you'll then begin to explore and experience more fully in the second module when you begin peer-to-peer coaching and embark on a 3-month integrative learning practice of your own design, although we'll give you the frameworks and methods that you can choose from. So after 3 months of peer-to-peer coaching and integrative practice, you then begin the third module of the program, which is when you start to coach external clients, as well as continuing with the support of your peers in peer-to-peer coaching and supervision from Hennie and myself. And so you've got all of that going on in about 2-week intervals. Every 2 weeks, we come together in sharing circle and in webinars as this group to explore the ideas, to learn new techniques, to see demonstrations, to share in that safe space. But running parallel to that are meetings with Alef Trust's wellbeing officer, exploring various ideas and techniques that she makes available. And while all of that's going on, you also have access to live sessions with Alef Trust's academic learning officer, learning how to explore and analyze all of this content through a critical lens. You know, we don't take the transpersonal or spiritual stuff too lightly. We bring a rigorous scientific lens to explore specific phenomena that often have been considered outside of the realm of science. Alef Trust is an academic institute, and so we sustain that academic rigor even in this course. So critical thinking, academic writing skills, we feel are very important so that you can express yourself in a grounded way and thereby make these abstract phenomena more accessible and more useful to people.
Can you, one of the cornerstones for any of the Alef Trust programs is that the student goes through a transformative process. We've always looked at what we're doing as more than just absorbing information and spitting it out. We want to see that the person themselves have gone through a shift. Can you share with us some of the journeys, the experiences of some of your students, what happened with them as they went through the program?
Well, I can start off. Just using myself as an example, and there are many examples. It is quite profound to see how people have changed and how they can change in the course of the year. And it's nothing we do. It's just because there is this space, there is this medium, and this is what people experience for themselves. For me, I can just say that in my process to become a coach and to start teaching coaching has been a profound experience for me. You can't learn this stuff without experiencing it. And as you experience it, you change. We hope you change for the better, and you have to confront certain things within yourself. You have to confront certain shadows within yourself. But at the same time, you discover capabilities and capacities within yourself that you never knew you had. There is no way, I believe, that you can do this course without changing inside and very often on the outside as well. And that's the way it's designed to be. Transpersonal coaching is about involving your whole being. It's not something that's objective. It's not something that you do to someone. It's something that you do with someone. We enter into a very sacred joint space with someone, whether it be your client or your peers on the course. And Of course you change. I mean, there's no other way, is there? Yeah. I mean, you deepen your experience. It's amazing, as I started off by saying, to see how they discover themselves. I'm fascinated, and it's a beautiful process.
It is indeed. This program is as much about your personal growth and transformation as it is about learning the skills and processes that transpersonal coaching is known for. So yes, the two do go hand in hand. The more you immerse yourself in your own development through the program, the better equipped you become to hold space in that manner of clients too.
So as the student completes their certificate, are they ready to go out there and be a professional coach, certified as a personal coach? We get that question asked quite frequently.
Yeah. Well, by the end of the one-year program, you should feel confident and competent to go out and start professional coaching. You would have undergone a sufficient amount of training and guidance by the end of the year to be able to do so. Not all students leave the program on the same level. Some do need a little bit more hand-holding than others, but we provide that hand-holding. And by the end of the program, you're fully eligible for international coach accreditation, because this program fulfills the coach accreditation criteria given by IACTM, the International Association of Coaches, Therapists, and Mentors. And so by the end of the program, you're going to leave with a coach certificate from Alef Trust, eligibility for coach accreditation, and ongoing support and supervision that is made available as well. So it's not like the year ends and you're left all to yourself. You're going to get ongoing personal and professional support and guidance to establish yourself in a professional coaching role, if that's a new role that you're stepping into, or to integrate this work into your existing profession.
Thanks. I do want to bring up to everyone who's here today, if you do have any questions for Jevon or Hennie, by all means, just please put them in the chat window, and then Francesca will share it with them. So another question is that we do get frequently: how does this certificate differ from the Alef Trust Master's Program? Because a lot of times there is an overlapping of interest.
They differ in several ways. Two are most prominent. The first, most obvious one is that the MSc at Alef Trust is a 3-year program. The certificate is a 1-year program. The second one is that the MSc is a 3-year deep dive into the theory of transpersonal psychology, spirituality, and consciousness. Along the way, there are many experiences to be had, and there are, along the MSc journey, many experiential sessions and an integrative practice module of its own. The 1-year certificate program is for practitioners. It's where the rubber hits the road. You're going to get your hands dirty. We're going to get practice with the techniques. So it's really geared for people that want to become practitioners or who are already practitioners and want to learn this coaching specialization. There's going to be a relatively deep dive into the theory too. That's how we start off in the first module of 3 months. But within that module, we already start to dip toes into the applied domain and start to have personal experiences with the various techniques that we kind of try on through engaging in the materials. But from the second module onwards and throughout the entire second and third modules, it's all about practice and where theory meets practice. But by the end of the course, you know how to do the stuff versus research the stuff. I hope that makes sense.
Who benefits most from attending the certificate course? And also share with us, transpersonal coaching is like a large set, specific ways how students and graduates are using it in their profession.
Well, I mean, I think the possibilities are endless. I mean, I think some people would do this course and they would start practicing as transpersonal coaches. Other people might integrate what they learn into an existing practice. Or, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to do something completely different, even then, what you learn from this year course will definitely benefit you in whatever area of life you are moving in. I'm convinced of that. I mean, purely as, and I see George's question in the chat window, by the way, is this sort of a viable career in a way? Is this a feasible career option? I do think it is. I think there are many coaches out there that are providing meaning to many clients, that are providing a service. Can you make a living from it? Yes, absolutely you can. Everyone has their niche, and these are some of the things we'll talk about throughout the year. These are the sort of practical type of questions that we will workshop. What would your practice look like? What type of coach would you be? What type of clients? I mean, we could take a drive down to the nitty-gritty of how you actually integrate this into the nuts and bolts of a coaching practice. Can you make a living from it? I'm convinced. Can you use it for in any other way, integrate it to any other type of practice? Of course you can. I think the possibilities are endless.
Thank you, Hennie. And I might add that, come the end of this program, you'll have a Transpersonal Coach Certificate and the resources to begin applying that professionally. But you don't have to refer to yourself as a transpersonal coach, because you will have in your skill set the ability to do what life coaches would be doing in their life coaching practices. If you have a business background, you can apply this very well in that business setting with corporates and executives. If you have any other type of background, it fits seamlessly with whatever it is that you do. Our coaching models and techniques are not so much prescribed A to Z models, but rather conceptual frameworks that can be drawn from to give some kind of structure to your thinking in sessions with clients. But they do not say you've got to do this and then that and then this and then that from beginning to end of your session. That would be a very conventional or mainstream approach to coaching. And our transpersonal coaching approach is very much about saying, well, you know what? That's not really client-centered. We see people as whole and as full of potential. We hold space for that potentiality. And then through making a deep intuitive connection from coach to client and co-creating that held space together, we draw from ideas and frameworks, whatever seems intuitively useful in the moment, but we are by no means limited to particular models. So the question then, can you make money with this and in which context can you use it? Is like, of course you can. You can use it in all contexts. It will enhance what you do. It will enhance how you think. But all by itself, it is a particular coaching practice itself. You can also refer to yourself as a professional transpersonal coach. And it is, in fact, a budding niche within the coaching specialities these days. More and more people are hearing about it and taking an interest in it, and that includes clients too. So there's another question about the classes being every other week. That's true, a specific day, time. Well, they're generally on Tuesdays, and our sessions go like this. There's one at 9 a.m. UK time, then there's one at lunchtime, 1 p.m. UK time, and then there's one at 8 p.m. UK time. And then morning, afternoon, evening, every 2 weeks. And that's how they go. All the sessions are recorded so that if you miss any, they're there and available to you. Of course, you'll be encouraged to partake in the live sessions because there's a lot to be experienced there that you might not appreciate as much by watching the recording. But a number of students have been challenged because of time zone issues over the years and missed several of the live sessions, and they've still excelled as coaches. So it's quite okay to miss some of the sessions. I would say if you can make at least 2/3 of them, you're good. If you miss half of them, you can still be good, but try not to miss half. Okay.
Okay, Francesca received a number of questions by private message. I'll let you, Francesca, read them out because they're lumped all together as one. You can share that with Hennie and Jevon.
Okay, thank you. One of the questions was whether we offer bursaries. Do we pay extra for supervision? Is it all 100%? Are we not going, the second part, is it all 100%? Are we not going to do in person? I don't quite understand that. That was from Jessica Hirani, who might want to add something to that.
Well, it's 100% online, and you're going to learn how to do coaching online, but the skills are completely transferable to an in-person setting. So everything you learn to do with a client at a distance, no matter where they are in the world, no matter where you are, is completely applicable to being in the same room. So that if you want to transfer those skills to in-person coaching, applies just the same. There's no additional cost for the supervision. The supervision that we make available to you is part of the program. The question about bursaries, I can't answer.
I'll chime in on that one. And with Alef Trust, unfortunately, bursaries are not available for certificate and open learning programs. We do everything to keep the costs down, and you'll find with our programs there's a lot of hands-on. I mean, you are doing your own work, reading and activity on the forums on your own time, but this is not just an online course where there's no interaction or feedback. So there is a lot going on for you as a student in that year.
And it starts on the 2nd of February, to answer Sandra's question. That's our first in-person, well, online, although it'll feel like in-person orientation session. So 2nd of Feb, just around the corner.
I would love to answer the question about why is this useful for the world right now? Well, it's always been useful, but I think it's even more useful. I mean, I'm sure you've had this experience, haven't you, about how the world has been in the last while. And I don't think it's a coincidence that there's been a sort of an interest in the transpersonal approach. I mean, it's there, isn't it? We know what the world is like. We know what people need. People are looking for meaning, aren't they? They're looking for purpose. They're looking for a context for all these experiences that they have. Not good experiences, always sometimes bad experience. But you know what happens when the world is under stress and when individuals are under stress? It brings out parts of our being that need attention, that perhaps we've neglected up until now. I think the time is right for the transpersonal approach and our integrative approach, our holistic approach. That the time has come, and maybe it's just me, I'm biased, but the pendulum is swinging. We've for a long time, we've sort of fragmented things. We've been reductive in our thinking. I think it's time for us to bring everything together. And I think now I'm really getting philosophical, but we as a species, as the human being phenomenon, I think things are coming together. And I think we who are students of the transpersonal approach, this is our purpose. Huh? This is our time. This is what we are here for.
Can you explain how a student is assessed? Are there exams? Are there assessments?
There are 3 written assignments, one handed in at the end of each of the 3 modules. They are 2,500 word reports written on the topics that were explored in that module. So in the first of the 3 modules, being the more theoretic one, we're going to explore the value of a transpersonal perspective in coaching. We're going to look at how the transpersonal coaching approach facilitates transformation and growth in coaching. And you're going to engage with each other through text-based forums, as well as live sharing circles and webinars throughout that module. And then based on all the experiences you've had, there'll be specific themes and topics arising out of that, which gain traction in your mind, which appeal to you most, and then they become the topics that you write on in that first module. The second module is a report on your integrative practice and peer-to-peer coaching. And the third module assignment is a report on the coaching that you've done throughout that module with external clients as well as peer-to-peer coaching. And, Georgie, what qualities do we have in mind in terms of the candidates for this course? Curiosity. Plain and simple. Just be super curious and be interested in growing and expanding and in learning how to facilitate that for others. And to be a beacon of light in the world today, just to add one thing to what Hennie said, we can choose to see the current conditions that are prevailing in the world as an opportunity for collective growth. In fact, some of us remain optimistic because we see it as such. And despite the intense uncertainty that debilitates many of us, causing chronic anxiety and fear because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, we see this as a golden opportunity to let go of the old familiar, to step boldly into the unknown, and to draw from uncertainty opportunities that would otherwise never have occurred to us. So we go boldly, but we go so strategically. You're going to learn how to embrace uncertainty and to draw from the unknown ideas, inspiration, and creativity, and to channel that into life so that we can be proactive beacons of light. And so, it's philosophical, but we go about it in a practical way. What lights me up about this work is seeing how students and graduates on this program are taking their skills and ideas and bringing them to life in the world today and making a real difference. They're touching people's lives. They're helping people to overcome fear, to approach challenging situations more resourcefully, to expand, to grow. And there's a ripple effect of positive change coming about through this work. And personally, that's why I do this.
Could you use this or call it well-being coaching?
So, you could most certainly call it well-being coaching, but I think it is much more than that. Can you use it for well-being coaching? Absolutely. I mean, I think our approach is very well suited to well-being, health and well-being. I think calling it well-being coaching might limit transpersonal coaching. It's certainly part of it, of course, well-being, but it's much more than that. It's one of those things that is really difficult to define. And we can talk a lot about transpersonal coaching, and we can list so many qualities. And I hope you can hear the passion and respect we have for transpersonal coaching through the way that we talk about our experience. But whatever you're going to call it, it's much more than that. But is it something that aims to enhance your resourcefulness, to enhance your experience of life, while not ignoring the bad parts? Is it an approach that integrates the whole human experience so that you are a more complete human being and that you mean more to everyone else and everything else? If that's your definition of well-being, then yes, you can call it well-being coaching, but it's probably that and so much more.
Okay, we have another question here. Is certification recognized internationally?
Well, it is very much. The students on this program come from around the world, and Alef Trust is rapidly becoming much more internationally established. Although it's a UK-based institute, the MSc program is validated through Liverpool John Moores University. The certificate program is not, but that's the standard. And we have this validation that Alef Trust represents, and you're going to receive the Alef Trust Transpersonal Coaching Certification by the end of it all. Then, of course, as I mentioned before, there is the international accreditation that you're fully eligible for. No questions asked by this end of the program. You can walk straight into that coach accreditation. So I think that does make it as international as any coaching course could wish to be.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? Yeah, as Jevon already brought up before, the first introductory session is February 2nd, so we're not, there's not much time left. This is one of our most popular courses, by the way, and we do fill up every year. So if you are interested, Francesca Hector is your first point of contact. And if you have more in-depth questions, Francesca will, connect with me, and Hennie and Jevon are available, for quick questions by email.
Yeah.
Anders, do you have a question for us?
How many students attend the course? We take a maximum of 30 students for this year. And for registration, we are to the point now, sooner rather than later. We have only about 7 days, but as I said, we're also filling this course, and we're almost full as it is. At this point, we only have a few spaces left. So if you're definitely interested, please connect with us in the next day or so, because it takes several days to process individuals' application and get everything squared away.
I see also a question from Andrew. When you say transpersonal, would an aspect of this be the quantum field? And would we also be learning about how neuroscience and spirituality are finding a meeting place? Well, yes, all of that and more. I think one should also be careful about terminology, because there is a lot of difference in the words that we use for some of these concepts. So be careful about labels, and we do try and avoid labels, but it's important that we do understand. So I would agree with you that a lot of what people would call the quantum field comes into it, most certainly. Neuroscience and spirituality, remember, if you really want to go into an in-depth, more academic discussion, workshopping of these concepts, then maybe the MSc would be more appropriate to you. But we do delve into those concepts as far as it is useful for coaching. It is important for a transpersonal coach to be able to talk about things like the quantum field, or to be talking about how spirituality and neuroscience or any other science, any of the sciences, how they come together, how they converge, how we apply that theory into coaching. The coaching course is about application. We aren't going to spend hours philosophizing, but we are going to talk about how those concepts are useful and how we use those concepts to help our clients and make it real. Transpersonal coaching is real life coaching.
Thank you, Hennie. For Jevon, for Hennie, anything else you would like to share with the group today about the certificate and course?
Well, of course, Hennie and I might be biased, but we do love this work. And as I've said before, I'll say this again, I love this work because it makes a difference for individuals and for groups. And for those that didn't catch this bit, you're going to learn how to facilitate transformative process for individuals and to work with groups in similar ways. And you see a difference. It's very noticeable. So this stuff works. It's not just theoretic, conceptual, wishful thinking. It's practical skills that identify valid and meaningful, resourceful states that are beyond what the left brain or rational mind or even neuroscience might appreciate. But then we do seek to embody these broader states, to grow new neural networks of potentiality. And we might use terminology that is known in neuroscience and in quantum theory, but we use the terminology metaphorically to highlight points so that it resonates with clients, so that they get it and understand things in new and meaningful ways, and therefore learn how to apply these ideas in their life. So it's client-centered all the way. We learn their language, and through the process, we appeal to them. And so we'll touch on various subjects so that we have a broad range of ideas and skills to draw from. But then you're going to learn through this program to let go of all of that, to let go of everything, to bring your complete presence to the process, because transpersonal coaching is really about that. It's bringing all of you into that sacred, co-created space with the client in which transformation can happen.
Just in response, for practical purposes, the course is offered annually each February. It's not again in September. So just to keep that in mind, is once a year. Also from the tuition, it's not all due at once. We do a 2 installment plan where you pay the first half of the tuition now at the start of the course, and then you are billed 6 months later for the remainder. So that's, a frequent question. You don't have to have all the money up front at once. So it makes it, easier for people to attend. And there was one other, how did you first get into transpersonal coaching? I don't know if it's directed to both of you or one of you, but I'm passing it along.
Well, I'll start off with, Jevon has a different story than I do. My story started off years and years ago. I mentioned to you, I'm a medical practitioner, I'm a medical doctor, and it's always been, I've always had this sense that there's so much more going on behind the scenes. I was seeing patients and realizing that I'm missing so much. If only I had an approach, a methodology, if only there was a philosophy that could help me with incorporating more of humanness, more of what it is to be a human. I was exceedingly frustrated by the sort of fragmented way that we approach people according to modern science, particularly in medicine. That's what initially sparked my interest, that search for something more holistic, for something more complete. And then my journey started with Jevon years and years ago. So everything that I know about transpersonal coaching and that I've learned since then has been through him. He lives and breathes this stuff. And countless people, including myself, have found so much inspiration from him. So he's perhaps the best person to answer the question, where did it all start?
Well, I don't know. I learn and grow from what I get from Hennie every time we interact. Hennie brings so much knowledge and wisdom to this program too that benefits all. And, I'm relatively young, approaching 50, but I have been passionate about this topic all my life, not exactly transpersonal coaching, but spiritual phenomena are part of my life's journey for as long as I can remember, have been there since my earliest memories, are in my school reports, and have appealed to me all my life, although it wasn't part of my very mainstream upbringing in South Africa. Both Hennie and I originate from South Africa. And but through international sports performance in which I was involved in, and that I started to recognize that our true potential cannot be found in the cognitive domain. Our true potential is somewhere else, is something else, and there are specialized ways in which we can access that. And already in my early 20s, I became very excited about all of that. And there wasn't much to learn about any of that at the time. But there have been wonderful examples that I have been fortunate to experience in my own life through spiritual teachers, meditation teachers around the world. I dedicated 20 years to extensive travel to study from such individuals. And eventually, transpersonal coaching came into existence. It was already spoken about, uttered in some silent corridors by others that were also exploring this at the time, but there was no transpersonal coach certification around, and these days there is. So I hope you'll join the program and we'll get to share more about this in those corridors.
All right, I put the link on the chat, up on the chat window if you haven't made contact with us already, at the bottom of the page, and that is giving you all the information about the one-year certificate in Transpersonal Coaching Psychology. Fill that form out and Francesca will get right back in touch with you. And for everyone else who has already contacted us, just email us back, or if you have questions about any of our other programs, because sometimes when you attend one of our open houses, you get a better sense of what's best for you as an individual. And if it turns out something else, again, contact us. We're here to talk with you to find out what is your best course of moving forward. And from Jevon, from Hennie, from Francesca, and myself, I want to thank you for taking your time out, because I know time is precious, to attend this session. And we look forward to having you be a part of our community. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll meet again. Bye-bye.
Bye.